Hey there, English heroes. So I'm going to answer this week's Heroic English Challenge, and the question is, have you ever had a supernatural experience? Proposed by Yuli. Now, this question is super interesting for me because as a kid, I used to always, take pride in being rational as opposed to my fellow kid friends. Like, they would fear the dark and say crazy things like there's a monster there is a witch, there is like a vampire or something like that, there's like a spirit. And I would always be like, hey, there's nothing to be afraid of. Look, like, I'm gonna go into the dark and show you that there's nothing there. Like, and I always felt like more brave and just show off that I was not afraid of the dark, which is kind of contradictory because I had this attitude with my friends, but then when I was alone and in the dark, I was afraid of it. And for a period of time when I was 10, 11, 12, even 13, I used to go to bed and keep the light on, much to my brother's he didn't like it. He did, but he accepted it, so he had to put up with it and with me. And to be honest, I've never really had an supernatural experience in this case, right? So I don't have anything to share. What I can share though is something that is strange, unheard of, and maybe even just a figment of my imagination. The thing is, and I've actually shared this in some of the meetups we've had, I can remember when I was in my mother's womb, and I've always said it, and like my family, like people in my family believe it, because I've always said this since an early age. And I'm kind of convinced that I do remember some things. I mean, by some things, I mean just nothingness, but and hearing some noise coming from the outside. Now, I've actually researched this a couple times, and some people say it's impossible. Like, your brain isn't developed enough when you are a fetus, right? Like, you can't really store memories that early. I just feel like I remember seeing colors like black, yellow, pink, and then voices, people outside speaking. I do, like, sometimes I try to be rational about it, and I say that it may be that my mind made those things up and convinced me that that's a memory. And if I had to actually bet $1 million, like, okay, Max, you get $1 million. If you get it right, like, is that a memory or just a product of your imagination? And I would really be on the fence of saying, okay, maybe it's just something that I made up. And again, convinced myself that it's a memory. I think Victoria was talking about like how unreliable our memory is actually. So yeah, to that point, maybe it's not an actual memory. And I will never know. But I will always say that I remember, because it's also a cool topic to talk about and, share about that. And so, like, going back to, this attitude of, being and wanting to be rational as a kid and now as a grown-up. Like, before I used to think that being rational meant really being skeptical and dismissing all this supernatural as not real. But when you actually become more rational than normal, it's like you find yourself on the other side of it, and now the rational thing is being open-minded and believing that there might be something that is beyond our understanding of what reality is. And now just the possibilities are endless, and I've been growing more and more curious about extraterrestrial life, which is categorized as supernatural as well. It's beyond what we understand reality to be. So yeah, it's like a never-ending quest for figuring out reality and being curious, and yeah, just being open-minded to different ideas and stuff like that. Anyway, that was my video. Thanks for listening and watching, and I'll see you, I guess, on the weekend for our Heroic English meetup. See you there.